Here we go. Thank you.
All right, you guys all ready to hear about the awesome world of mortgage?
Back of your head.
Yeah. So
Where do we want to put them?
I'm a lot of. I'm going to sit right here because I may have to reference some information as we go through. So I'm a lot of fun at dinner parties and holidays and stuff. I start talking about mortgages and it's pretty exciting information, but extremely necessary for our business and everything that you guys are going to be doing. When I talked with Tanya, she wanted to start with conventional lending, which makes sense because you guys likely in your careers as real estate agents are going to spend probably 90% of your time on transactions that involve conventional lending, especially right now. This is sort of the predominant lending vehicle of choice. Yes, ma'am.
What does it really matter in RMLS when they put? I mean, is there a difference between the three conventional, FHA, and VA? And I know we're going to conventional, but sometimes listing brokers will put that they will only take a certain type of loan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why?
Well, I think that's has to do with the seller and and some of the guidance that they've probably gotten from their agent. So if they don't want to accept alternate lending platforms, then they can put that in there. However, as agents, you guys can submit whatever offer you want, and they are required to show it to that seller.
There are certain things that would require it to just be captured conventional, and that is a home that will not qualify for FHA. That would be, or VA, a home that is in disrepair, right? It has to be livable for FHA and VA. And then the other thing is condos. There's a certain qualification that they have to go through that some of them forget to renew, and then they will not qualify for it, right?
Correct.
And other than that, it should be everything.
Correct. Yeah.
I'll be right back.
So conventional lending. Oh, first of all, I'm Josh with Academy Mortgage. I guess I'll introduce myself. Some of you know me, some of you don't. Some of you know me for longer. I think Masha's probably got the longevity here. We used to be neighbors about 10 years ago. So long before both of us were doing this. So my office is down the hall, right sort of kitty corner from the Clark Group office. And I tend to be here more on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm going to start being here more on Wednesdays as well. And then, of course, whenever somebody needs me. So anyway, I won't have you all introduce yourself right now, but I do have a couple of great raffle prizes for at the end. So if you have a business card that I can do a drawing out of, you can just pass it all down this direction.
Write it on a piece of paper if you don't have a business card.
Write on a piece of paper,
Always carry business cards on you.
Right. Right. This is a
I actually ran out of mine when I was showing. My client gave me the extra one I gave her.
I think I have more Josh's cards than I
Oh. Well, that's not good. You need to pass those out too. So that's just good. Yeah. Oh. All right. Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect. So when you hear about conventional lending is, again, sort of the predominant vehicle that you're going to get for people financing these days to buy a home. And conventional also may be referred to as conforming lending. And so what that means is somebody is getting a loan that is generally underwritten or backed by the two major investors in loan, the GSEs, the government service entities. So that's Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Some lenders portfolio and loans and don't sell to Fannie or Freddie, but they still underwrite to those same or similar types of guidelines. So for Oregon, for our area, you're going to have a maximum conventional loan limit at $548,250. Don't forget,
That's really random.
don't forget the $250. So, but that is, anything over that is considered a jumbo loan.
How much was it?
$548,250. I'm sorry, what?
Is it like now or does it change?
It changes. So great question. It changes annually. So every year, well, generally every year, at least in the last several years, the GSEs, they sort of evaluate what that number should be at, and then they, generally increase it. So last year, I believe it was 484,000. And then they raised it to the 548,250 now. And then the year before that, it was like 424. So it's continually been going up sort of as the need has gone up with home values, appreciation, how much people are getting paid, payroll, so on and so forth. So they've done a good job pretty much at keeping up. We had this big jump last year. We weren't expecting quite as big of a jump, and we were happy to see that open up. That allowed for a lot more first-time home buyers to get into the market because they weren't strapped with trying to get creative with jumbo or a first and second type of situation. Now, 548,250, that's where we live, and that's for us. Now, it's regional, maybe more in other areas. Last year, for whatever reason, we were at the 440 or 484 in the whole state of Oregon, except from Hood River. In Hood River, it was like $2,000 more for some reason. I don't know why, but this year, for the most part, the whole state is at that amount. There are some areas, not in Oregon, but in high-priced areas. So like Seattle is one, LA County is one. To where they have, they're considered high balanced areas. And so the conforming mortgage limit is higher. So, but for us, for our purposes, it's the 548,250. So to get us started here, we'll start off talking about principal residences. So that's, again, going to be the majority of what you do. Now you're going to have people buying second homes, investment properties, so on and so forth. We'll talk about those a little bit as well. But most of your clients are going to be buying principal residences. And, how does that look like with conventional lending? So there is a 3% down option. We'll get to that. But typically you start at 5% down in a one unit. Now that one unit can be a condo. It can be a manufactured home. It can be a detached home in a subdivision with an HOA. So that'd be a PUD, planned unit development. It could be a detached condo. Don't see a lot of those, but you see some builders doing more of them these days. And as long as it's one unit, you can go as low as 5% down. Now, if you have a 2-unit property, then you can go as low as 15% down, or a 3 to 4 unit. So up to a 4-plex, you're still considered conventional lending under the residential lending platform. Anything over a 4-plex is now considered commercial lending, and that's a whole different ballgame. But one thing to note on these slides is when you see DU or LP. So DU stands for a Fannie Mae backed loan. LP stands for Freddie Mac standards. And so while they are really close together for the most part, you're going to underwrite really similar to both conventional lenders. There are some differences. So like, for example, you can go up to a 4-plex at 20% down on a front, as long as you're living in one of them with Fannie Mae, whereas with or with Freddie Mac, whereas with Fannie Mae, you have to do 25% down. So then it goes into refinance, cash out transactions. That's if you're going to refinance your loan and you want to get cash out to use for other purposes, then you can't go more than 20% equity. So you have to have a lot of equity in your home before you can do a cash out on it for conventional lending. So this is for principal residence. So what, there we go. So second homes. So for second homes, meaning if you just want to buy a, not an investment property, but a vacation home, then it falls under the second home guidelines. And so if you're buying a beach house or something up, by Mount Hood, whatever, as long as it's not a investment property that you plan to rent, it's just a second home for you, then it falls under this guideline here. You can go as little as 10%. You can go as little as 10% down on a purchase. It's still a great option to do for a second home. Now, one thing to note is your second home has to be more than 50 miles away from your first home.
Really?
So,
That's also.
well, the reason for that is people would say they're buying second homes and they immediately start renting them. And so it's sort of that catch-all for, investment properties. So if you want to buy another home and, convert your current primary residence into a rental, then that's totally fine. You can even buy the house next door or across the street if you want to. Nobody's going to care. You can buy it as primary residence, convert your departing home as an investment property. We've got some people that do that annually. It seems like they'll go buy a new house, convert their, that way they're getting into a new home as primary residence, and they get to keep their primary residence mortgage on their old home that they're now converting. So easier to do it that way than try to get around the 50 mile mark. I'm sorry, what?
2 years.
2 years to keep your home.
Oh, we as the mortgager will let you do it after a year in terms of,
IRS.
right, in terms of tax implications, then you're right. Yes, then, consult your tax consultant on that. But yes, as the mortgager, as a lender, we'll let you do it after a year. Yeah. So, yeah, you may face tax implications though if you do that in less than that 2 years, and so on and so forth. So,
Can I ask a question about the second home?
what's
I'm
that?
gonna throw a little wrench in
Sure.
there. Isn't there a program that you have where you could buy a second home for an immediate family member?
Yeah, actually, you can do that. So you don't, and it's not
and not
considered a
50
second
miles
home.
away?
It's considered a primary residence.
There
So you can buy your mom or dad
Kid,
or
right?
kid that can't qualify on their own to a primary residence, and then it is considered a primary residence at that point, as long as it is sort of for their benefit. So I am personally in this situation. I have my mother-in-law who's aging, and she can't stay in the place that she's at. She can't qualify for new homes. So my wife and I are looking at a place that maybe we could get for her to put her in. And yes, that would be considered primary residence at that point. So what's
I
that?
don't want to live with you.
No, no. Wait, is this being recorded?
Yeah.
She's
It
lived,
is.
she has lived with us in the past, and so we'll find her a different
She
place
doesn't
now.
want to live with them either.
Mm-mm.
Does
But they
that-
could
No, she
qualify
doesn't.
on their own.
I
if they
would plan
can
to
do
do
that.
it, that would be disclosed and all of the contracts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're not
If it's
supposed
your
to.
family and you're,
No.
well,
Yeah,
if you're
No.
helping buy it,
I have a client that's doing that, buying for their son.
oh, I don't
Mhm.
think you have,
pre-approval as a primary.
no, it would be
Mhm.
more an agent if you're doing it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
For
Yeah.
your for like the second vacation home, if more than 50 miles away, if it's not an investment property, can you still like Airbnb it or VRBO it? Because I know a lot of people do that with their vacation properties.
Yes.
Mhm.
And there's a certain amount of time
But you have to.
that you have to occupy
Yeah.
yourself, or at least not have it rented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact days out of the year. I would have to double check that, but yes, a lot of people are doing that. And so that's one of the options is people buy second homes, they use it for their own personal use, and they Airbnb it the rest of the time. That's fine. When you buy the home, don't have a rental addendum on your insurance. So when you turn it into us. But that's okay. You can get away with doing that as long as you can qualify without having the rental income. So sometimes people will want to buy an investment property and they need that long-term rental income qualifier in order to offset the mortgage enough to where they can qualify to cover both. Whereas with a short-term rental plan, then you can't use those funds until after you've had it for 2 years. So at that point you can't. So. Investment property. So investment property is up there. It's just a different breakdown of what the loan to value is allowable on for 1 to 4 units. So you're looking at 25%. Now we do have for this, we're talking about the Fannie Freddie underwriting. We do have another portfolio program that allows you to go as low as 10% down for investment properties. But I didn't put that slide in here because right now we're talking about the Fannie Freddie guidelines. Yeah.
What's limited CO? Cash out?
Yeah. Limited cash out refinance. So what that means is you're not really getting cash out. You're allowed up to $2,000 back.
Oh.
So it's limited. It's limited. You're limited at 2,000 amount. So versus the cash out refinance where you're taking more back. So for a while, when COVID was sort of in the throes of it, Fannie and Freddie had sort of shut down the cash out refinance on investment properties for a little while, but those have come back now.
Sorry, what is CLTV?
Oh, sure. So combined loan to value.
Combined.
And housing combined loan to value. So what those are referring to is if you were to buy a house, say with like a first and a second mortgage, or you're doing a refinance and you have a HELOC on your property as well as your first mortgage, then you have to combine the limit on that second plus your balance of your mortgage together to get your complete loan to value of it. So your first loan may be 70% of the value of your home, but maybe you have a home equity line of credit attached to it that's another 10% of the value. So your total combined value, loan to value, is 80% at that point when you add the two together. And then that's how, when you're doing the loan, that's how they're going to score your risk, is based off that total combined loan to value, is based off of those two things added together. So a lot of times people will, back in the day, my youth, you could do an 80-20. You could get a first, 80 and a second 20%. You wouldn't have to come with any money down. Now you can do like a 80-10-10. So you can put 10% down, 80% first, 10% second. Avoid mortgage insurance that way, but you still have to come up with that 10%. They don't allow you to do the full 20% anymore. But for the CLTV, that's what that stands for, is the combined loan to value. Which one is this here? Oh, okay. So this one is starting off with our 3% down program. I feel like I'm missing something up there. It didn't come through. I wonder if I sent Austin the wrong one. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, that's all right. So for this one here, we're talking about doing the option between 95 and 97%. So when people talk about 3% down on conventional, that is what we're talking about here. And here you'll see also the CLTV up to 105%. And what that is certain communities will have down payment assistance programs that allow you to add like a second lien to the purchase as a means to help you finance your down payment, closing costs, so on and so forth. But they're expected for that to get paid back. And so when it says community seconds, that's what we're referring to. If you're buying in a county that says, you know what, we're going to give you $20,000, up to $20,000, then you can get your first mortgage at 97%, and then you can get, what they're offering you as a second, silent second lien. Normally it's money that you can use towards your down payment, and then it just has to get paid off once the loan closes or is refinanced or the house is sold. There's not a lot of those going on right now. First of all, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have really restricted the ability to get approved with that sizable of a loan to value. So as soon as you go over that 97%, their risk threshold drops to just about zero. And so it's been really difficult to get a community second loan attached to a conventional lending. Had a lot more success with FHA platform and down payment assistance programs than conventional recently. So yeah.
Is the interest rate higher for these kind of loans that are?
Yes, so 3% down, interest rate's gonna be higher than you would have with say a 95, a 5% down or 15% down, so on and so forth. So 3% down, when you go 3% down, your interest rate's gonna be higher and your mortgage insurance is gonna be higher. Now, some of that can be mitigated by, a higher credit score. So with conventional lending, credit score drives pricing both on the mortgage insurance side and on the rate side significantly. So although you can get a conventional loan for as low as a 620 credit score, your pricing is going to be cost prohibitive if your score is that low. So when you're doing a 3% down mortgage, if your score is less than 700, then often we'll say, what, does it make more sense to look at FHA for you, or does it make, and we'll sort of look at both options because pricing is a lot better at those lower credit scores than conventional is. And mortgage insurance is just through the roof a lot of times on conventional when you're doing 3% down and your scores even under 720 sometimes. It's just really high. I had one recently, it was like 1.41% just for the mortgage insurance. So we switched over to FHA. It was, it was a lot more consumer friendly at that point. But that's just one of the things that, we sort of look at the full picture for somebody and help them decide what to, what's going to be the best fit. So on the 3% down, at least one borrower on the loan needs to be a first-time home buyer. Okay. And then now a first-time home buyer is anybody who hasn't owned a property in the last 3 years. Okay. So it's somebody that could have owned before, but they haven't owned in a while. Maybe they had, they had to sell and they rented for a while, whatever the case may be. If they haven't owned in the last 3 years, then they are considered a first-time home buyer again, and now can qualify for a 3% down program. And eligible properties on 3% down, you can do condos, you can do single-family residences, you can do PUDs. So it's just the same single family with the HOA, but you can't do manufactured homes on a 3% down program. So that's those are ones that are not allowed. Let's see here.
So they haven't owned in the last 3 years, or they haven't purchased?
They haven't owned in the last 3 years. So not allowed to have any ownership in the last 3 years. So even if you've owned and your mortgage has been paid off for 20 years, if you're still the owner, then that doesn't count. So,
You say that manufacturing
uh-huh.
you can only 3%.
Can't be 3% down. You can do 5% down. Yeah, but you can't do 5% down. So we will at some point probably just do a manufactured home class also, because that's
there's not many, but yeah.
There's a whole.
It's a whole nother thing.
A whole nother gamut, but when you run into those questions, just ask them, have an answer. So, so you've got Fannie Mae Home Ready, and then you got Freddie Mac Home Possible. Those are the additional 3% down programs that Fannie and Freddie offer. So you've got the regular conventional 3% down, or you've got these special programs that are offered by Fannie or Freddie, Home Ready and Home Possible. And these are designed for lower income folks, you have to qualify. You can't have too much income, and it's regional, so you'd have to look up, depending on where you want to buy, what the income cap is. But these allow for a better rate and for a lower coverage of mortgage insurance. So your pricing when you do one of these types of programs is going to be better than what you would get on a standard 3% down program if you qualify. If you make too much money, then you may have to do a standard 3% down program, or try to get to the 5% so down. But these are both great programs. There was at one point where there was no income limit areas. They allowed people to buy in, but they got rid of those a couple of years ago, unfortunately. And so now you've got to follow the income eligibility tool. It requires first-time home buyer and home education class. So they've each got their own, and they're online. Just take them through Fannie Mae or the Freddie Mac website. I think Fannie Mae charges for theirs, but Freddie Mac's is free. Although Fannie Mae's program is a little bit better. So sometimes it's worth it. But same restrictions in terms of home eligibility. You can do up to a 4-unit, but you just can't do a manufactured.
I was gonna ask, how do you have a 4-unit principal residence?
You can live in a little.
So yeah, as long as you live in one of the units, you can rent out the other 3. So yeah, it's great. It's popular. When you're buying and if you want to live in it for a couple of years, buy it as a primary residence, and then move on. Again, it's a great way to start. So not as much fun once you start having a family and stuff to move them around every couple of years. I suggested this a couple times and it wasn't popular. So it wasn't a popular suggestion. I don't know. It's weird. So. So these 2 programs are both great, Fannie and Freddie, Home Possible and Home Ready. Sometimes if you're able to do these programs, they will also be combined with the community seconds that I was talking about. And sometimes they loosen up a little bit of their risk aversion when you're utilizing one of these. So if anybody also does in Washington has a great program called the Washington Bond that I'm licensed to do. And you can do it with either FHA or conventional. They've got a great program for that for community seconds up there. Oregon's got an Oregon Bond program. It's not nearly as good. They're supposed to be revamping it, is my understanding, to be a little bit closer to what Washington's doing because their program's a lot better. Washington Bond is for helps to cover sometimes with the closing costs, but not they're not like a down payment assistance type like the Washington Bond is.
Can I just say something really fast?
Yeah.
Do you guys see the importance of having a relationship with a lender that knows what they're talking about? Because do we need to know all this as well?
Yeah.
We need to know a little bit of it, but we don't need the full details like Josh knows. Right, so that's the importance of having someone that you can go and rent something off of them that can have them be a part of your open houses or engage with your clients.
Like I said, I'm a lot of fun at parties, talking about this stuff. It's definitely not necessarily always exciting part of real estate, but certainly a necessary evil in your guys' world. So we also have a great 100% conventional financing program. So this is one of the portfolio programs I was talking to you about. It underwrites to the Fannie and Freddie guidelines. However, it's a portfolio, so it's not a program that is backed and sold to Fannie and Freddie. So it's kept on in-house on the books once it closes, but allows you to go up to 100% financing. There's no mortgage insurance on it.
And that's just for first-time home buyers.
Only for a first-time home buyer. The max loan amount originally was $300,000, which of course, so we didn't do any of these loans for a while because nobody's buying those. So they increased it to $493,425. So you'll find that in the lending world, we like ratios and stuff. And so everything has these odd numbers and looks strange. Why don't you just round it up to 494 or round it down to 493? But no, it probably fits some sort of ratio in there, which it does. It's 90% of the conventional loan limit. So 100% financing, as long as you have a 700 plus, you can go up to 50% debt to income, which is awesome. They originally had it capped at 37. Again, we weren't doing any loans that way. And so they increased it to 50% with a 700 plus credit score, or 45 and 43 for 680 and 660. Does everybody understand sort of what the debt to income ratios, what sort of feeds into that? It's your total allowable monthly income as qualified. So if you work 40-hour-a-week job, you make $10,000 a month, let's say, you're allowed to use up to 50% of that income, $5,000 of all of your credit debt. So that includes the proposed new mortgage and any auto loans, student loans, credit cards, personal loans, anything, any other housing expense goes into that. You can't have more than, let's say, that $5,000 a month towards that ratio to qualify for this particular debt to income. But that's how you calculate somebody's debt to income. And it's like, well, but right now student loans are all deferred because of COVID. Yay, we're not having to pay them. So, but there is a calculation that you still have to do. It depends on the program. Fannie and Freddie have different calculations depending on those deferred student loans. So in some cases, we've actually had some people who have chosen to take their student loans out of deferment, even though they're sitting there interest-free for now, and put them back into repayment, because once that payment starts hitting the credit report, if it's on an income-driven repayment plan, then it's less than the calculation we may have had to use for a deferred student loan. And so it all comes down to sort of the math of the situation. Everybody's favorite subject in school, definitely not my daughter's. So for this program, it's great. I just closed one of these with an agent out of the office, and it worked really well. We closed in 30 days. It was just a standalone home, and the seller kicked in a bunch of money for closing costs. So you can get up to 3% in seller credit on this program to help with closing costs. So again, not super popular these days with houses flying off the shelf for seller paid closing costs, but it can still happen. So find yourself the right property. Maybe one's been sitting there for a little while. I don't know. What do you consider a little while now? 7 days, 8 days?
4.
4? Okay. All right.
Does it have the same strict requirements as FHA, and like the home couldn't be a fixed forever?
So it's going to, for the appraisal, it's going to be on the Fannie and Freddie, the conventional guidelines. So it can need cosmetic things, but it can't. And this is the same for conventional FHA or VA. You have to meet the safety and livability standards. And although they are a little more strict for FHA and VA, they're still sort of looking for the same thing, and that's, livability and safety. Your windows have to be able to open and close. They can't be painted shut unless they're supposed to be fixed windows, right? You got to be able to heat your house. You got to have electricity, plumbing, that works, so on and so forth. So it can't be repairs that are structural. But if it's cosmetic stuff, somebody just, decides they want a nicer kitchen or whatever, then that's fine. So
Is there a roof like? Not like, is there a specific amount of years have to be left on?
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be the same type of standard as conventional, which is like 5 years. So yeah,
What's that for?
3 to 5 years. You'd have to get, for a roof. So
Oh, it needs to have at least.
yeah, so when we bought our house, our roof was called out, and we had to get there was a roofer that came out and had to do a bunch of repairs on these old bunch of shakes stuff that was on there, and they had to give us, do a 5-year cert on it. So I've lived there for 8 years now and haven't done anything with it. So I guess it's fine.
Have you been up in your
Yeah.
house? You haven't
I
been
don't know.
there. Shake roofs are a whole other thing.
don't jinx me. So
Have you treated it?
anyway, moving past my roof, Tanya. But yeah, to answer your question, it's just going to be the same as conventional. If anything obvious, and then they'll call it out. Actually, I got a slide here on the appraisal here. We'll get to here in just a second. Any more questions on the zero down program?
You have these flyers.
Yeah, there's some out in the lobby, and actually, if anybody wants them with your picture on them, I can co-brand them and put all of your information on there. I've done that for a few people. I think, yeah, Stacey, you have some. And it's super easy to do. Just send me your branding and your picture that you want, and we'll put it on there, and I'll send them to you as a PDF, and you can, do whatever with them. So I'll give you a JPEG too if you want social media.
Is this a new one that's 100% financing for, and no mortgage insurance?
Right. So no mortgage insurance, rate's higher. That's how you offset it, right?
Oh.
So instead of 3.125 or 3.25, which is sort of a going rate, give or take, it's like the one I did was a 3.875.
Okay.
But
Still a
zero
great
down,
interest
and
rate.
yeah, it was awesome.
Holy
So
moly.
pricing's a little higher, so you're going to pay. You're going to have some points involved. So I think it was 2 points that she ended up paying. Seller paid for most of the closing costs. They paid for some. So all in all, it was fine. You're sort of paying a little bit more upfront to get that. And I penciled it out up against the 3% down program to see if it made more sense to go that way for him. And the payment, even with the lower rate on the 3% down with the mortgage insurance, was higher on the 3% down program with them having to bring a lot more money to the table than by doing this. And so just,
Yeah, mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
Stinks.
yeah, just,
So glad I don't have it anymore.
what's that? Sorry, the percentage of mortgage insurance? Oh, the rate? Oh, so for the one I just did, it was 3.875. There's, you can go, there's sort of a sweet spot though, to where it makes sense to, pay a little bit more in points to go down, and, or there was a 4%, but it was so close to the pricing, it just made sense to do this one. So yeah. So it's still, it's still really good rates. I mean, for regular mortgage, we might be back up into the 4s here, in another year or so. So, okay. Any other questions on this one? All right, I'm gonna cruise through here. So a little bit on appraisals. Your guys is
Oh, that doesn't work. You have 2
doesn't
minutes.
work back there. So
Yeah, I told us.
my 10-year-old is gonna be calling me from basketball camp. Where are you? Pick
What
me
time
up.
do you need to leave it?
It's all right.
It's 1:55.
He'll be all right. I picked him up 10 minutes late the other day. He's fine. So he's
So
got
they're in 3
he's got a
hours.
phone. So
You won't know.
so here's what you want to look for when you get your appraisal back. Does it say as is, or does it say subject to? If it says subject to, that means you got some work to do. So that means here's the value, but it's subject to those repairs, right? And the repairs you were just talking about. So appraisers are required to look for physical deficiencies that affect the safety, soundness, and structural integrity of the subject property. And then this section down here, I'm not going to read you the whole thing. And I can. Austin's got this. If anybody wants it, he can send it. He can send it to you. But this talks about sort of the adverse conditions that may pop up that they're looking for. And sometimes you're going to have some appraisers that are a little bit pickier than others, right? And it's sort of the luck of the draw sometimes. But for the most part, they're just they're looking for structural issues, toxic substance, hazardous waste. If you've got an oil tank down in an old house that needs to get removed, get that removed, clean up before the appraiser goes out there. Other stuff. So if you just have deferred maintenance, not generally a big deal, right? I mean, house is 30 years old or longer, you're going to have some stuff. It doesn't have to be a brand new house. But if you've got bare floors that aren't hardwood and should have carpet, then that's going to get called out, whether it's conventional FHA or VA. So those things, those types of things seem taken care of. peeling or exposed paint, dry rot, that kind of thing. Again, your windows need to open and close. Safety, livability standards. If you're representing, well, actually really either side, make sure that there are CO detectors installed in the house and before the appraiser goes out there. Make sure the water heater is double strapped before the appraiser goes out there. Those are things that will delay a closing at the last minute and are avoidable. And so make sure those types of things are taken care of before the appraiser goes out there. What else we got here? Okay, so appraisal waivers. I get a lot of questions on, how do you get an appraisal waiver? Those things are like magic, and everybody loves them. And sometimes I've only had to talk one buyer into why they should accept the appraiser waiver instead of demanding an appraisal. So, an appraisal waiver is considered generally a prior appraisal must be found. So this is Fannie Mae, but Freddie Mac's going to say pretty much the same thing. Found in the subject properties Fannie Mae CU data, so the collateral underwriter. So basically, if this house has been appraised by either Fannie or Freddie in the last 5 years or so, generally it's going to be in that, it's going to be in their system and they're going to see it. And as long as this house isn't priced completely out of control, then then you may have a good chance of getting an appraisal waiver. I've gotten several recently, and even with the house being priced higher than maybe what you would have thought even a year ago, but we're still able to get an appraisal waiver. So now you're going to only get it for 1-unit properties, condos, primary residence, second homes. Sometimes you will see them on investment properties, not as much. You've got to have an approved eligible through your underwriting system for that to kick in. So sometimes you can lose an appraisal waiver. So if you get one, make sure you check with that lender to make sure that they have that home coded correctly in their system.
Make sure they have what?
Have their home coded correctly in the system. I lost an appraisal waiver once because I was told that this place was a condo. The listing said condo. Everything said condo on it until the title company got a hold of it and said, no, this is a townhouse. And we went to the county, everything, and I changed it to a townhouse in the system. Appraisal waiver disappeared, had to order an appraisal for it. So you just got to be really careful. Make sure sometimes you get townhouses that look like condos, or condos that look like townhouses. And, you just got to be really careful. If you're the listing agent, you're writing it up, if it's a townhouse that looks like a condo, it's okay to say townhouse style condo, just make sure condo is obvious in there. So, because you have more restrictions for a condo than you do a townhouse. A townhouse with an HOA that looks and sounds like a condo, fine. We don't care. We treat that as a attached PUD, as an attached home, not a condo. So there's a lot fewer restrictions with that than a condo. So anyway, those kind of things. If a address is input incorrectly, even a little bit, then that can toss out an appraisal waiver. So it's one of those things. If we get an appraisal waiver, we still disclose to all parties that hey, we're disclosing the cost for an appraisal. If we don't need it, we'll get rid of it at closing. But it's there just in case we have to order one, in case we lose the appraisal waiver. Of course, nobody wants to hear that, but and it's very rare that happens, but it's good to make sure and check that you sort of vetted out those risks and you feel good about it. So if somebody changes how much they're putting down midway, then that can throw out the appraisal waiver. So a lot of things. Once you have one, try not to change anything if possible. So, what else? Go. Questions? All right.
Did you guys find this valuable?
Yeah, definitely.
What questions, I know it's a lot of information, that's just on conventional lending, and that's just sort of scratching the surface of conventional lending. There's still a lot. We really talk about mortgage insurance too much. We'll probably do a whole class on mortgage insurance. We can have one of our MI reps come in and, tell you more about that. But yeah, any questions or maybe scenarios that you guys have had that that you'd like to ask? Yeah.
Is there a checklist or something, I mentioned the double strap and the CO2, things that we can talk to our sellers about and sign done before?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially the things on,
Can you get a copy? Can you like give us a nice little,
what happened?
you lost it.
I lost it. Okay. Anyway, yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, I can put that together and send it out to you, but it's basically the things that showed up on that physical deficiencies that affect safety and soundness, structural integrity. There's sort of a breakdown in there. It's not so much a checklist, but we can sort of turn it into one, and that would be something that would probably be helpful for your folks as preparation.
Jeff, can you send that to me and then I'll add it to the Slack channel?
Yeah.
Okay, and any flyers that you have, we'll
Yeah,
add it to the Slack channel.
Sure.
Let's say maybe as an example, of my recent closed sale. End up being if there's a reverse, deal with it, but in inspection, we're supposed to sell front as part of the lease. Right, Ron, so, we did give a little discount on the closing costs, but, having had an appraisal, we just have to call out and have to fix that.
Right.
Probably,
We also get a backup offer that said no repairs.
Right.
but if there's a loan on it,
If that had come up, the seller still likely would have had to fix those posts.
Right. So something like that probably would have come up. Now, here's another thing. Sometimes when you have an appraisal waiver, in order to accept and utilize the appraisal waiver, there are conditions in which the buyer has to provide the lender the inspection, which of course we don't want.
there's no inspection.
as a matter of
We
rules.
don't do
So,
those anymore.
right, yeah. In certain rural areas, if you get an appraisal waiver, they may require a copy of the inspection. And then, of course, if you see things like that on the inspection, they would probably not be able to execute the waiver. You'd have to get an appraisal at that point.
Likely had
They probably would have said subject to repair of dry rot and peeling areas, and then there would be like a bunch of high res pictures of a couple,
Exactly what it is.
of what it, of the dry rot area, making it look worse than it probably is. So
In this market now, with close really fast, it's hard to find a contractor. I mean, can you still do something where you say it's done at closing or out of closing proceeds, or is the lender required that it's fixed
Before they'll close.
it's.
yeah, so if there's something that the appraiser calls out as a subject to item, that needs to get taken care of before closing, or you can do an escrow holdback. So an escrow holdback is where
They're still doing this.
yeah, you can still do them. We did one not too long ago, but it's where, let's say you've got something that needs to be repaired, and
It costs $1,000.
yeah, and it costs $1,000. There you go. So you've got to, either the seller or the buyer or combination, somebody's got to agree to pay to fix this. So you take that money, you give it to the escrow company, 120% of the bid. So the bid's $1,000. So here's your $1,200, and then you can close the loan. And then whoever gave you that bid, the contractor goes out there, does repair, submits their invoice, and then the appraiser goes back out, makes sure that the work is completed. The escrow company releases those funds to the contractor, and then at that point, that's cleared up. Whatever excess funds are in with escrow can now get refunded back to whomever they belong to at that point. What's that?
Is there time limit, like, must be done within this month?
It's, I want to say like the max you can go is 6 months. For something like that. But yeah, I think it depends on what the repair is too. Some things might not be eligible for escrow hold back. So like if it's a safety issue, like half that roof is missing, then, that's gonna have to be done before somebody's allowed to, close on it because they've got to be able to move in.
Is the appraiser charged to come out again the second time?
Yep, $150. So some appraisers are super stickler on that. If you don't double strap your tank, and some of them won't allow you to send them a picture showing that it's now double strapped, they will charge you $150 to go drive back out there and look at the double straps. So make sure they're done. Most of them will take pictures for something like that, and minimal stuff, and then they won't charge you. But but most, a lot will. What's that?
You can't pick your own appraiser anymore.
No. But
Oh, when I did commercial, I was mechanics.
oh,
So did
well,
I.
yeah. But the agents are allowed to be there when the appraiser is there, and especially if you're concerned about value, then you should be there with comps in hand, justifying the value. I just had one come in 2 days ago, $70,000 under purchase price.
Probably the actual list price.
No, it wasn't actually. It was 50,000 under the list price. So, this is a unique property though. It's not like there's something in but anyway, sometimes that stuff can be there if you're there to help, help make your appraiser's job easier. Make it easier for them to say yes. So, the longer they're there, you don't want them there that long. Appraiser that comes in with their little laser pointer, measures all the rooms and leaves and it's gone in like 30 minutes, you're like, all right, let's get if the longer they're there, the more concerns you might have. So most of them are going to peek, make sure the crawl spaces are not obstructed. They may pop them open, shine a flashlight in there, but they're not gonna dig into it like an inspector. Yeah, like a home inspector. Home inspector's gonna pull out everything. The appraiser's not gonna do the same thing.
So how do I go about the appraisal?
What are you allowed to tell them?
Yeah.
I mean, you tell them whatever you want as the agent, but you want to be cautious with what you tell them.
Just be nice.
Yeah.
And let them know, hey, this, I would just say here's some comps that we utilize. And we had 10 offers.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the highest offer. Give them copies.
Yeah.
Cross out the important information, right? Names.
Yeah.
I just did a class with an appraiser, and he said it's a lot more likely to look at your comps and provide it at the appraisal rather than trying to find it after.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You definitely want to try to, make it easy for them up front. Sort of like when the cop pulls you over, right? So be respectful, provide them the information they need, and move on. Don't start, don't start over talking it and justifying too much. So any other questions?
Is there a way that, or I don't even know, it's possible, like the top 5 things these agents need to know is on development? Really summary of what we actually should know on the top of our.
That's pretty broad. Yeah, I hear what you're saying though. So,
Simplify it for you.
yeah.
I think more than anything, it's about you being aware and understanding if someone comes to you and say they don't have a down payment,
Mhm.
knowing that there are programs, depending on their score, and the best thing for them to do is talk to the lender.
Okay.
Right, just understanding those little triggers about how you need to react to it. Yeah, we don't need to know all that stuff that Josh told us.
Well, you
But
generally don't tell
if
people
we
no.
hear it, understand it, like, seeing it, understanding it, will just help you, it'll trigger stuff when you're talking to your client about it.
Generally tell people, not yet, right? So we don't tell people no. If they don't qualify right now, then, we'll say, here's what you need to do to get ready. And, so when you're out there talking with people, it's good to be able to say, hey, I just heard about this great 100% down program, or, gosh, what do you do for a living? There are programs out there that sometimes are specific to, right, exactly. So like doctors, healthcare professionals, so on and so forth, or you ever in the military, that kind of thing. So, just as you're learning more about people, there's often programs that may be beneficial to them. Let me connect you with my, my lender, and, they can talk through that with you. So, your goal, so for us, we want to be able to reach out to the client and then get them back to you as quickly as possible. So our goal is get them qualified, get them back to you so that you can start digging into what they qualify for. Or if they don't, here's what they need to do. Here's sort of the timeline. Drip on them until then, and keep them in your pipeline for building, for down the road later. Well, did I get everybody's cards here?
Yep.
Good. I don't have a hat. Anybody got a hat or something?
Is there anything going on with the VA like loan for teachers
Ad?
and first responders?
Austin, you can stop recording.
Yes.